Isn't it great to be a South African today? So, I don't know if you know this, but we win the cricket. We're still World Cup champions of rugby. We've got the best surfer in the world. We've got the fastest sprinter in the world. This is a good day to be a South African, and it's a good Father's Day. And to get us into today, this is going to be fun. I've asked Blake, and he told May today that she's coming up with him to stage. This is the strongest man. So he's in the middleweight category. He's basically got the record for, or now it's second, but he was the strongest man in the world, eh? Come here, strong man. Blake, won't you give them a hand as they come up? We need a little mic. You got. Are you nervous, man?
I'm just shocked.
Okay, grab a seat. So, it's nice having you in my field. Blake, you kind of struggled in life the whole way through. I mean, you're not good at sports or anything. Tell us about your sporting career. What did you play? What did you do?
Morning, church. I've always been a sporty person. Family background, South African, okay, not South African. Natal swimming, Natal polo, Natal rugby. I was a good distance runner. Don't look like it now, but used to be. It's always been a sporty person. Parents always encouraged us to be sporty, get outdoors. I mean, we grew up in a background where you're outside playing in the trees and running away from people, pushing doorbells and running. So we were sporty. There weren't video games back then. So it's always been active.
Okay, you chose rugby. You had some options.
So I was Natal swimming at the time, Natal swimmer, Natal polo, Natal rugby. I made them all three in the same year, and I had to choose. Obviously, I was the heavier set. So swimming, I wasn't the tallest. Polo I was pretty good at. They actually chose me for the SS squad, which I chose to go to rugby. Was my passion. It was my father's passion as well. My father was like, no, you're choosing rugby. That's where you're going. So that's what I chose. So Natal rugby, 16, 18, 19, 21. Sharks under 19, Sharks under 21. And then I had my first serious injury.
Before you had an injury, who was the most hectic oak you ever scrummed against?
So I was unscrummable. No one beat me ever. That's not anything funny. And then one day I came up against a guy named Nicholas Shonett. He's now in the UK. He's a Maritzburg College boy. And I remember going into my first Natal scrum, and he was younger than me. And then my captain said, listen, hit this guy and lock your legs because he's strong. And I was like, you're stronger. This guy's nothing on me. Anyway, crouch, touch, pause, engage, and the ball comes in, and I folded. This guy crumbled me. And I sat back on the ground, and I was like, what the hell just happened? this guy just destroyed me. I was like, next one, I've got him. Which was about the second scrum. Again, he destroyed me. I was like, yes, this thing's not from here. This thing's out of the world. So the third scrum, I locked my legs.
When Afrikaans genetics says that, it's real.
No, the boy was a freak. That was the only guy that ever scrummed me, and that was sort of my last game as well. I pretty much had a serious op off that. Got a contract to go to the Lions, and pretty much in trials, 47 seconds into it, snapped my MCL, and I called it a day.
Okay, so you end the rugby career, but then you decided, I'm going to try something else. So tell us about that.
So, end the rugby career, I got a moon boot on, my knees strapped up, I'm just coming right, and I started deadlifting. I was like, I couldn't stay away from the gym. I was born in the gym. This is my life. And I'm gymming with a moon boot on. The guy's like, hey, something wrong with you, man? Like, you're supposed to be resting. And I was like, no, I have a vision. Anyway, I started lifting. Guys come up to me and say, that's big weights. What are you doing? Like, who are you? Where you come from? So I was like, no, I play rugby. They're like, no, now you do powerlifting because that's world record stuff right there. Like, cool. I'll wait for the moon boot to come off and I'll get back into it. Anyway, my dad forces me, you don't have to pay rent if you carry on playing rugby. So I was like, this is a good option. It helps a bit. So I still played rugby, dabbled a bit, but club rugby. Tore my calf, and I was like, okay, this is now it. I'm done. So 2 hours later, torn calf, I go into the powerlifting thing. Get ready for world champs, about to break the world record on SA platform, and I snap my bicep off on the platform. Recover, and yeah, I get back, I recover, decide like, what am I going to do? And I was like, this is still me, this is who I am, this is my life, this is my identity, everyone knows me as Blake the Strongman. So I was like, I'm going back, I'm going to get back, get ready. How long after did they break the world record? I think from operation to recovering to breaking the world record deadlift was 8 months. I put my everything into it, and then...
You made a plan.
Yeah.
You had like a belt around.
I literally made a plan. Like, I had the vision, I knew what I wanted, I knew what I had to go for. And I made a belt where I couldn't use my arm, so I'd lift the weight through my back, through the sling. And people used to watch me. I think that's where I got a lot of my followers, and people were like, look, the dedication is crazy. Like, because I didn't give up. I had the goal, and it was hard because...
How much did you lift?
So my first world record was 412.5. And then 3 months later, a guy broke it with 0.5. And I was angry. I was livid. Angry. And then we had the whole we had the whole lockdown thing. And I was like, I need to get my record back. And then obviously there's no competitions for 2 years. And I was like, but I need my thing back. Then lockdown, when everything was closed, gyms were closed. We hustled, we made a gym, we made a plan. At our home, on the ground, we made weights, we made things. Carried on training, so I knew as soon as lockdown broke, I was breaking that world record again. And yeah, 2021 at the end, when lockdown opened, we had our first comp, and I broke a new world record with 415.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was...
So, like, just to show all of us men how incompetent we are and masculine. Like, when you bench press, what were you bench press?
Look, bench on average, I wasn't the biggest bencher. I did a 190 bench. Wasn't like in your average is not the biggest. My deadlifts, my squats were high up.
So if we put a bench here, you could put me in one hand and Sia in the other hand, and you just give it.
Well, yeah. Party trick was shoulder press, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, my max one arm press with a dumbbell was 100 kg dumbbell with one arm, which currently now I still hold the world record deadlift. There's 2 different deadlifts. I had both. And then I have SA Africa log press record, axle record, deadlift record.
They call it axle because it started as an axle. Yeah. Anyway, quickly, how much did you have to eat every day?
So eating, it was a lot. It looked like 10 to 15,000 rand a month just on food and supplementation. It was a lot.
How many eggs do you eat for breakfast?
Then I eat 10 eggs. I'd have about a kg of chicken a day, plus half a kg of steak a night. So it was a lot. I mean, I've come down, obviously, they're much smaller now than what it was when I was competing. But it was a lot of food. It was actually, sometimes I'd blend my chicken and rice, put a cup of soup with water and drink it because I couldn't chew. I was done.
Okay, okay, enough of you. The moment he said, I will come to church, what did you do?
Truthfully, I blanked. I was lying in his bed. And like I said, when I got baptized, I bribed him with breakfast because food was life. When he agreed to come to church, the first thing, as I turned around, I was just like, thank you, God. Thank you that I listened. I got ready and I warned him, chill out. Ross is awesome. Like, he's like big brother energy. You'll be fine. But yeah, that's the first thing I did. I just like blanked out, turned around, I'm like, what just happened? And I just like blanked out, yeah.
He said you cried.
Why are you giving secrets? Yeah, so I'm a very emotional person. Worship, I cry. Like, it happens like a tap. It's like crazy. So yeah, it was a very emotional day for me because it means a lot. It means a lot. It's something that I had to face. If this wasn't something that he was willing to do, that I was going to have to walk away because I'm not going to choose him over Jesus. It's a non-negotiable. God is our foundation, and I always say to him, understand that when I go to heaven, you're the one thing I can take with me. If we don't have kids yet, like, I can't take any earthly belongings with me. You are coming with me. This is why it's so important for you, or for me, that you give your heart to God. Because I don't want to go, when we go home, I don't want to know that you stuck behind.
Nice.
It's a sad feeling, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so there were many churches, but it's a norm now.
Blake, you've been coming ever since, huh?
Yeah, I've been coming, I think, last now, just under 2 years. Yeah, pretty much just under 2
Not
years.
such a bad experience, huh?
No.
Okay, I want you to give them a hand as they go. Thank you so much. I wanted to get Blake up here, one, just because I find that amazing. But more than that, if there's any sport that I have seen that requires utter discipline, not just like you're disciplined, but I mean, a kg of chicken and 10 eggs. I mean, like, honestly, like, to the extreme, every single day where you live, eat, breathe, train, to such an extent that your disciplines become habits and your habits become your identity. This is it. Literally, check me one of these things. I don't know if you saw in worship, one of them popped. But basically, his entire self is this, is strong. You kick him, strong comes back up. You push him down, strong comes back up. He breaks an arm off, I don't know, strong comes back up. Like, everything is just wrapped around being strong. It's an identity. It's incredible. And we're starting this new series. I don't know if this will work, but we're starting this new series. Can you come and tie this so that it stays? Obey. On identity, on who you are and what you have. And because Blake's identity was so wrapped around strength, I thought to myself, let me speak about the identity that we have that is also wrapped around strength in a different form called Jesus. You know, Blake has gone on a bit of a journey, so I didn't want to bully him because he's still finding his feet in the Christian space. But imagine today because he has to come to 3 services, so somewhere down the line, imagine he has a radical encounter with Jesus. It's so radical that he is what we call born again. The moment that happens, what happens inside of him is his spiritual DNA literally changes. You know, the scripture says we become new creations, the old is gone, the new has come. There's an explosion that happens inside, and the entire humanity of him changes. You know, when you go to Home Affairs and they give you that thing of what race are you? What they're asking is what color, but it's a ridiculous concept because there are only Homo sapiens, there are only humans, but there aren't only humans, there are born-again humans and humans. The moment you ask Jesus into your life, there's an explosion. And that explosion literally transforms who you are. You become different, a different kind of person. Now, I know lots of you think that this isn't, I'm splitting hairs a little bit, but the reason is the Spirit of God comes and permanently, eternally intertwines himself in your spirit. When you're born again, the Spirit of God comes permanently, eternally, and intertwines himself into you. And when something intertwines itself into you, it begins to transform you. And so I want to talk about, firstly, who you are, then I'm going to talk about what you have. And I'm going to read from Romans 8 and dive straight in. Romans 8:15 goes like this. The Spirit you received does not make you slaves so that you live in fear again. Instead, you received God's Spirit when He adopted you as His own children. Now we call Him Abba, Father, for His Spirit joins with our spirits to affirm that we are God's children. when I was adopted by my stepfather, my name changed from Rodger to Baldwin. Then Home Affairs messed it up and I had to go back to Rodger. But in that name change came a whole bunch of other changes. See, I went from Shame, that kid Ross without a dad, who's always in his imagination playing Lego, to Ross, the son of Gary, the professional hunter, who's always playing sport, hunting and fishing. And the change in identity shifted behaviors, which shifted the way other people saw me, which shifted how I acted, and eventually completely transformed my personality. You see, identity always changes trajectory. And when you become a Christian, let me steal that one. You're going to have to tie it as well. What your identity is built on is no longer your successes, your failures, your name, where you grew up, no longer on your personality, on your characteristics. When you become a Christian, your identity literally is transformed to become a Christ in, a Christian. Jesus becomes your identity. He is the one I identify with. The way I used to identify with Gary as my new stepfather is how we're supposed to identify with Jesus. Now you have to tie this one as well, sorry. You look very cute with the headset though. They did some research around kids who didn't have fathers. What they found is that I was just looking at this, 85% of youth in prisons had an absent father. 70% of juveniles in state operating institutions came from fatherless homes. This is why South Africa crime is so through the roof. Because what you're designed by God to need is an identity that's bestowed by a father. This is the greatest longing. It's probably one of the most important things that the church can do in this generation, is bestow identity to kids without fathers. It's kind of the thing that we have. But when Jesus comes to the Father at his baptism, the Father speaks these words over him, "You're my Son, whom I love, with whom I'm well pleased." And in that, he gets a confidence of his identity and his acceptance and his approval, and he gets a confidence to go and do the things he's called to do. This is what identity does. This is what it brings. When you don't have it, you have mayhem. I was telling my staff this week, there was in Pielanesberg in the 1990s, they had a problem. They'd taken culled juvenile elephant out of Kruger, so the parents had been culled. They'd taken the little babies and they'd put them into Pielanesberg. And by the time they got to sort of between 10 and 20 years old, these elephants started misbehaving. They ended up killing 45 rhino, they raped some, they turned over trucks. There was an absolute nightmare. And then what someone tried to do, because professional hunters had come in there, like everyone had come in with a plan. Nothing was working. Eventually, they went to the Kruger and they went and got the biggest bull elephant they could find. His name was Amarula. They brought Amarula to Pielanesberg, and Amarula got there, a little dopey, just been darted. Anyway, he arrives, he's a little bit sleepy, he's like hovering around, and within half an hour, one of the bulls came to challenge him. Amarula was 5 tons, 30-year-old elephant. They were probably 3.5, teenagers. It's like my boy and me. This thing came to challenge. Amarula literally hit him so hard, he lifted this elephant off its feet and threw it back. They never had another problem in Pielanesberg. Which I encourage you, dads, to do regularly to your sons. It's not the physicality. It's the fact that when dads step in, they start bestowing identity and putting boundaries and go, this is how we do things. And so the Father comes to us. He comes to Jesus first and he says, this is who you are. And everything will flow out of that. When you don't get that, see, I know what it was like to grow up without a dad and not have that. And I knew what it was like to go into public and know that the way people were treating me in that space and that time was, this is the kid without a dad. I know the chip on your shoulder that you start to carry. I felt the feelings you have when you're lacking something bestowed on you. And I know the feeling that I had that moment that I could reach out to my dad and say, hello, Dad. And I know the moments where he said things to me like, my boy, it doesn't matter whether you make Zimbabwe team, A team, or the F team. I am still so proud of you. I have words like that etched into me because that's what fathers do. They bestow identity into children. And you can tell when it's not there. Because your soul and my soul so hunger for identity that we will search for it in sex and drugs. We'll search for it in substances. We'll search for it in people. We will search for it wherever we can go. I often sit with young men, and I'll sit in a crowd, young men and women, and what I'll find is that they're literally badgering me, annoying me, asking me tons of questions, and as I'm listening to this, at first I think they're just annoying brats who need a spank, and then I start to realize, no, they are seeing a father, and they're going, my spirit is longing for that. And so what God does is he comes and he adopts us. Now listen to this text. The Spirit you receive does not make you slaves so that you live in fear again. Instead, you received God's Spirit when he adopted you as his own children. Now we call him Abba, Father. For the Spirit joins with our spirits to affirm that we are God's children. I've read this before, but I want you to listen. The Spirit you receive does not make you slaves again to fear. You see, when you think about a slave is someone who is held captive by someone or something else they're afraid of. And the fear can literally be a fear of not getting, a fear of failure, a fear of rejection, a fear of abandonment, not measuring up, a fear of losing something or someone, or it can be a fear of consequences, of punishment. But instead, you received God's Spirit when he adopted you as his own children. I want you to just say, I'm adopted. See, you don't know what that means. I've been adopted. I know what it means. I know the feeling to be chosen. I know what it's like to lack and then have the fullness of a dad say, you're mine. You take my name. It is so beautiful, and this is what God's doing. He's going, you're mine. You take my name. When my earthly father adopted me, I didn't lose fear of a lot of things. I didn't lose fear of abandonment, and there was not a day that I was not afraid of being rejected by my stepfather. That thing lurked in me for ages. But when I asked Jesus into my life, I cried for 6 months because I felt a love that was more powerful than rejection and abandonment. So I would come into church and I wept more than May for 6 months. It was utterly embarrassing. And I was trying to get a girlfriend. It wasn't working. Ugly crying girlfriend. God was literally putting a love inside of my heart that was healing the fear of rejection that I'd been wounded with when I was born. You know why you ugly cry during worship? It's not because the songs are that good. I mean, you've gone to concerts with better songs. It's because the spirit of adoption, a father's spirit, is coming and touching you in parts of your soul that you didn't even know existed, with a love that is literally stripping you out. You are so bare and vulnerable before the Father who sees all things that it changes you. It goes on and says, and since we're his children, we're his heirs. I want to talk about heirs for a while. You know, it's very funny because my mom was on a teacher's salary. So I ate so much mince and toast. In fact, today, if you make me mince and toast, I will not eat it. It's just so much mince and toast. Every day, every night. It was just awful. Then I go onto this game farm. I get there, and breakfast is grapefruit, followed by a cereal, if you want, in my house, never mind the game farm, followed by, how do you want your bacon and eggs? I go from breadline to the most privileged human. And my head struggles to comprehend what's going on. I was 10 when I got adopted. At 11, my dad takes me out. He says, come, my boy. Can you stop crying? You're making me cry. And he grabs his Land Rover, and he pulls the wheel all the way around, out in the middle of the bush. Pulls the wheel all the way around. There are only little trees to drive over. He ties it there. He says, now turn it on. That's the clutch. That's first. Drive. And he goes and sits down. And I go, around. By 14, I was driving guests around the game farm in Land Cruisers. See, that's what heirs are. When the Bible calls you an heir, in Roman culture, similar to Jewish culture where you'd have a bar mitzvah, but in Roman culture, when you were adopted, it meant you are my chosen son. And what you would get in Jewish culture is you'd get a robe and you get a ring. The ring was the credit card, and the robe was a statement of significance. When you get born again, you get a robe called righteousness, and you get a ring called authority. Who you are as a son, your robe is righteousness. It's what covers you. Your ring is authority. The expectation that God has of us is that we would go out in his righteousness and authority and live out like Jesus did. Here's the problem. I had a youth kid whose mom was, Jesus and I are going to sit next to each other. He was adopted out of Boys Town. And they brought this kid in, this beautiful kid. And the problem with him was that he could never get his head around the fact that he could go back to Boys Town. And so he would steal and lie and cheat because his foregone conclusion is somewhere down the line, like every other foster parent, they're going to send me back to Boys Town. And these guys tried. I mean, I haven't seen parents love a kid like this. And they loved him, and they loved him, and they loved him. But he just couldn't take it. He couldn't receive it. And what I realized as I watched that story is I realized there are two types of Christians. They're Christians who receive the love of God because they deeply, this is where the gospel kicks in, because they utterly and completely believe that what Jesus did was enough to make them righteous with authority. And they are Christians who live every single day going, I actually don't deserve this, God. I swore I did this wrong, like I messed up. And the gospel is a statement from a father who goes, I love you so much. My son died for you so that you, underperformer, even you. can have someone perform for you, you just have to look at him. Because this is the dad who's going, I want to show you the hero, my boy, so that he can change you into my boy. This is the gospel. It's so utterly beautiful. In Romans 8, it goes on and explains our superpower. It says this: what then shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? Say all things. So, because I'm a parent, I can identify with all of you. There are so many things you'd love to give your kids, you just can't afford them. So, one of the things that heirs do before the Heavenly Father is we ask the Father for what he has. So, beginning of this year, my boy, I don't know what happened. He was this tall, and then December happened, and now he's this tall. And so he says to me, Dad, I don't have a cricket bat. And so I say, well, I don't have money, and you don't have a cricket bat, so you better pray, bud. So he starts praying. Then I messaged one of my friends. He plays T20 for Western Province, and I said, you got any old bats you can sell me cheap? So I said, listen, doesn't have to be in any nice condition, just bring it up. So he says, come to cricket 2 weeks' time. So we go along, and we get to the match, and we watch the match. In the end, he comes out. They're not allowed to mix with us properly, so he just comes, he says, how's it? Ross, take this for your boy. So I grab it. He takes a quick photo with Geordie. And he said, don't open that until you get to your car. So Geordie comes back to the car, gets into the car. He pulls out this brand new, top of the range, very expensive cricket bat. And my boy just starts weeping. And I said to my boy, do you understand what God's doing here? You have a Father in heaven who will give you all things. All things. And you're a son. And so you need to learn to ask. Because so many sons I know have stopped asking because they don't believe that they're good enough for God's blessing. You know, a little while later, I don't know why God keeps spoiling this light team. I message a friend because now he's into surfing, and his surfboard is my old one, so it's literally falling apart. So I said to my mate, but I'm sure you've got an old dinged up board you can give me. So he says, sure, I've got a dinged up board, come in 2 weeks. So he says, bring Geordie when you come. So I arrive at his shop and he says, here you go. And he brings out a brand new surfboard made for Geordie. You see, the Bible actually calls earthly things of lesser value than heavenly things. But God, because he wants to train my little boy to be an heir, is training him with earthly things so that he can give him proper valuable things like love and peace and joy and spiritual gifts and authority and power and strength and wisdom. See, there's a spiritual reality that heirs literally ask God for every day. I'm 9 minutes over. I have a little bit more to say. You're okay to stay for a little longer? I wrote this down years ago. You can tell whether you're an heir or an orphan like this. Relationally, orphans are like spring hares. They sprint. You know when you're having a conversation with someone, it's starting to get to confrontation, and then they're 200 meters away. Or they hide like a tortoise. You've had this. You're having a chat to someone, it's getting confrontational, and then their body's there, but they're not there. Or they attack. Their attitude is, man, the best form of defense is attack, honey badger. Or they're like snakes, they spit and bite. It's called passive aggressive. But relationally healed people, sons, stand tall. They stand in boldness, they stand in self-control, they stand in grace and truth. The way sons think, they think abundance. The way orphans think is poverty, there's never enough. The way the sons use their brains is imagination and creativity. The way orphans use their brains is hustle and scheme. Sons look for opportunity. Orphans look for threats. Sons are governed by peace, fueled with love, exude hope. Orphans are governed by anxiety, fueled with adrenaline, and exude fear. Sons act confidently and boldly. Orphans are timid. Sons are prayerfully dependent. Orphans are impulsive or indecisive. Sons have conviction. Orphans are aggressive or defensive. Sons' talk is full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. Orphans' talk is often for self-edification. Yesterday, I behaved like an orphan. I was out in the surf, and some guy dropped in on me on an SUP. And then I let it go, because I'm almost a son. And then he paddled and dropped in on me again. So I shouted at him whilst I was on the wave and chased him off the wave. And then I paddled back out. And when I got back out, I let him know that I was a little more upset than I had been previously. And anyway, then he told me that he wasn't in the wrong. And then I saw that other color. And I helped him see that he actually was in the wrong. And all just like Jesus. I was behaving just like a pastor and Jesus. And then what happened is that a girl who I know who comes to church every now and again, she started laying into him. And I mean, the way she laid into him made me look like an angel. And she let him have him. And then another guy stepped up who I've never met in my life, and he started tuning him and told him to go and surf down there. Now, by this stage, I've come to my senses. I'm feeling quite repentant. And I paddle up to him, and I say, but I am so sorry. That is not who I am. I don't want to shout at you. I'm still thinking you're a bit of an idiot, but I'm not saying it. I said, I just want to have fun with you. Let's just have a jaw. But by this stage, everybody's a bit freaked out because I was the guy who started this, and now I'm making friends, and they still don't like him. And the other problem is now he only has one friend in the water, and it's me. So he sits next to me for the rest of my surf, utterly ruining my surf. But in the thinking, because I knew I was going to have to preach on this, so I was in trouble already. I realized our superpower. Here's a son's superpower. What shall bring a charge against God's elect? It's God who justifies. Who is he who condemns? It's Christ who died and furthermore is also risen, who is even at the right hand of God, who also makes intercession for us. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword, as it is written, for your sake we are killed all day long. Thank the Lord that we don't have to say that, but this is what they were saying. We are accounted as sheep for the slaughter. Yet in all things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I'm persuaded that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any created thing shall be able to separate us from the love of God which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. You know why we can be really strong? Is because we cannot be separated from Jesus. You know what real strength is? I mean, I'd love to be able to bench press that, but you know what real strength is? It is to be ignored, rejected, attacked, persecuted, be treated unjustly, and being able to love back. It's the ability to have a cold marriage and be warm. It's the strength to be in an abusive working environment and bring hope. You know why we can do it? Because we're heirs. And man, they can be absolutely terrible. But nothing can separate us from Him. This series, these next 3 weeks, are really to help you not just understand your identity as someone who's really well loved and you got a dad in heaven. That's wonderful. These next 3 weeks are to help you understand how to live as an heir of God, to access all the resources of heaven and go make a difference in the world so that you can be really strong. May God bless you, fill you, direct you,